Welcome to CWC's Family Connection. Happy Tuesday. I'm here with Pastor Jason.
Hello.
And I was going to say we were going to try and unpack your sermon, but that's like unpacking a whole household of moving. That was a lot of stuff in there this week.
I put a lot in there, and it was, So.
But it was an extremely good message.
Thank you.
And it was really looking at that whole passage again differently a little bit. But we are in the home stretch of James now.
Yeah.
And
probably
I
one
guess
more sermon, probably.
And he's wrapping all of this up and just, I guess he's really bringing things to rubber meets the road here. And,
Right.
and this is where he's going. So
Yeah.
we started talking about, confessing your sins to one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people have got the idea that, you're almost supposed to sit down and go, well, I do this and I do that, and I do this and I do that, and sometimes I do this too.
Right. Yeah, it's not really, a list where you have to read out in front of the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
But it, as I mentioned, it is looking at some things that can get in the way of relationships. And if we're truly going to have a body that grows together, and if we're going to be honest, if we're going to let God work through us in those areas, then we have to at least acknowledge that, and then realize that the way He wants to deal with these things might be uncomfortable, but they also are going to lead to a healing, a healthy, and an effective, not only one-on-one relationship, but as a body.
Well, and that was part of what you had mentioned here that really struck me and hit a chord with me with this is really not only that it's not about salvation, that I understood, but how integral this is to relationship, and how necessary it is for healthy relationships, which is what we are called to have in the church.
Right. And there again, James, as the pastor of this Jerusalem church, really wants not only people to learn, but for his church to be healthy. And so, there are a number of things that he was seeing really even in that time that were kind of getting shoved under the rug, and he wanted to address it. But he addresses it at the end, so it's not, he didn't take a long time to point it out, but he also said, if you want to be healed, if you want to be effective, it's going to have to start with this confess, which once again is acknowledge that there are some issues that get in the way.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to let God deal with them, then as I said, it kind of blocks how He wants to work through people, and eventually it's going to cause problems. So. Yep.
Well, and the way you expanded on the idea of these faults or trespasses, I mean, we keep thinking that it's just, I got to confess that I drink or something like that. And when you think about this in terms of relationship and so on like that, how that is, you tied it to boundaries with people and so on like that. And if we look at it from that way and from that standpoint, we realize, I think, or at least for me, it makes me realize just how much more demanding and how much more difficult this really is to do. And I it's a recognition that I cannot do this on my own.
Right. Yeah, and so even when we talked about forgiveness back in Matthew 6, we can't do that on our own. We have a hard enough time relating with ourselves, much less interpersonally with other people. So it really is just agreeing with what God has already accomplished and recognizing that what He's already done, I'm supposed to just engage with Him rather than invent the wheel or try to do these things on my own. That's not going to work. We've seen all through Scripture, especially in the Old Testament, that our own efforts fall way short. We get fully exhausted and try to find other alternative ways to bring God's plan. And so James is just pointing out those are the things that get people in trouble. So if you would just recognize that, then you can step into what God has already accomplished, and he can continue to work. And once again, then you're going to be healthy, and you're going to have an effective way of working together.
Yeah, and I loved the description that you had in there, forgiveness from when you were working through it, and you said it's letting go of the hope for a better past.
Yeah.
And I chewed on that for so long, and I thought, wow, how many of us go back and just woulda, coulda, shoulda games.
Right.
And
Yep, and forgiveness really becomes an issue when you continue to say, I wish that wouldn't have happened.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody wish it wouldn't have happened, but it did.
Yeah.
And so if I continue to go, I wish it would have happened, it's as though I'm hoping that somehow maybe I saw it wrong or it wasn't that bad. But then we get stuck there because it was something.
Yeah.
It was something significant, and it changed your life or altered the course of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So to come to that acknowledgement is really the first step of forgiveness. And from then you can move on and say, well, I see that Christ has opened up a way that he can use all of these things, as terrible as they were, he can use them and create something beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But he can only do that if I stop wishing the circumstances were different. If I just lay it in his hands, which there again, releasing it is that word forgiveness, then he can move me through a process of not only taking all those pieces and producing a better picture, but he can make it that much more effective. And it becomes whatever Satan wanted for our destruction, Christ has redeemed it for our beauty. And that's what's so important about forgiveness. And so it ties in there again with confessing our faults, because sometimes I'm the one who created the rift or the issue. And so if I don't know how to deal with it on both sides, both as the victim or the offender, then we're going to keep running into these things. Mm-hmm. And so there again, it's not because we figured out or we read a book or we worked a process. It's that Christ already went ahead and said, you guys are going to run into this. Yeah. So let me show you how it's done. And that way then we can walk with him through the details of our individual circumstances.
Yeah, and then he wraps up this little passage that you were working on with the prayers of a righteous man. Mm-hmm. Avails much. And so that doesn't mean that you have to go and find somebody super righteous to pray over you.
No. Once again, it's his character, and he's just saying, I want to be myself through you, and that's what James is saying. That's the agreement that we've come to accept him as Lord of our lives. So let's just let him do that in these areas where typically we might want to say, well, it's not that bad, or shove it under the rug, and yet it's the very circumstances that Christ shines the best, because these smaller things happen more frequently, and yet they're what get in the way of relationships. So if we can let his righteous character be expressed through us in our own faults, then we get to see that redemption in just the smaller things, and it becomes really infectious. Yeah. We see that these aren't burdens we have to carry anymore. And once again, Christ is he manifests his own character, and it becomes something that we agree to, and it becomes ours. And even 2 Corinthians talks about being shaped into his image. That's this right here. This is how we are shaped into his image through those daily interactions where we find ourselves on the short end of the stick, but his righteous character can do the entire thing as long as we just walk with him through that process. But it's unnatural and it's uncomfortable, but it's healing. And so James is saying, if you want, this is how it can happen.
Yeah.
So,
And the one thing that I think when listening to your message and listening to it again today is, this is probably, to go back to one of your very, very older sermons about the linchpin.
like 20 years ago?
No.
Oh,
I wasn't here 20 years ago.
That's
I'm
what
not that
saying.
old.
That,
Well,
that
I
was
am
an
that
old
but
sermon.
that's-
Yeah.
But you were talking, but this really is key to that unity that we're called to. Because unless we can work things out with each other and discuss things with each other, in and through the Spirit working through us, we're never going to achieve that unity that we're called
Right.
to.
Yeah,
So-
and there again, as a pastor of the Jerusalem church, James is saying,
Yeah, and I can just...
I'm not going to let you guys slide by without at least knowing that you have the choice if you want to go here or not.
You
So-
know, I look at some of the things we talk about in our day and age right now with division and so on like that, and I can just imagine them sitting there going, Gentiles?
Right.
I mean, seriously? And so if they could overcome those sort of issues, and we are here today because they overcame them, then we should be able as Christians to overcome all of the other things that are going on. We should be able to come to confess each other and to work all of this out and exhibit that unity and love that we're called to.
Yep, they're not nearly as big as some of the things that the original readers had to
Yep.
deal with, and yet here we are, we're stuck with it. So,
Yep.
and so that's why it gets pressed on me as we can move forward. This is entirely possible, but it's only possible because Christ is pushing us that way. But the call, at least from what I feel pressed upon me, is are we engaging with what he wants to do? And I think by and large the answer is no, we're not, because we think that it doesn't matter, or it's not that big of a deal. It was life-threatening for the original readers.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to get to the point where it's life-threatening for us to understand this is something that we do need to engage upon. And so hopefully, as James has said all the way through his letter, hopefully the stressors of your daily life have shown you that this is where God wants to work.
Yeah.
And he can work in these circumstances. But if you don't let him, then you're going to look at it as though he didn't come through, he's not trustworthy, Christianity isn't working for me, we're going to see it from a whole nother perspective rather than from the reality that it is. He lives within you. He's right there. He's got it, maybe differently than what you think it would the outcome would be, especially if it comes to forgiveness.
Yep.
But that he is putting himself on display, and you get to have like a front row seat in what he's doing. And that's a cause for celebration rather than a cause for, oh, my life is terrible. So
Yeah, and I have personally seen the impact of confession, forgiveness, and reconciliation with people, and I think of a couple of situations in my life personally with people that I've had to deal with. A couple of them after several years of just being apart and so on like that, and I remember God saying, okay, this has got to end. And going into it, and the end result of it on the other side was just amazing.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, as I said in our 9:30 Empower Hour class, and I guess I mentioned it in the message too, we were not meant to carry
No.
these heavy burdens.
No.
And if we choose to because we think we need to somehow teach the other person a lesson, that's not teaching anybody a lesson. All it is wearing you out and not allowing God to be who he really wants to be. So,
I think over the course of all the messages and some of the things that God has been speaking into my life and so on like that, I think one of the things I'm starting to catch on to is that this whole Christianity thing that we're called into, it doesn't work real well if you try to do it in a worldly way.
yeah. No, it only
doesn't.
works His way.
Yep.
So, and it's better His way. We
It
sing
is.
that. That's every time we sing that, Marta. It's better your way. I get stuck on that point,
Yeah.
and that goes through my head all the time throughout the week. It's better your way.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I didn't have to be my age and learn it, but I still have more years. So let's figure it out now. Go with it, and really be once again that more effective.
Well, Junior, you're still learning it younger than when I did, so
That's
there
good.
you go.
That's good. All right.
Anyways,
At least there's some bright spots.
there you go. We've got some things coming up.
Yep.
We want to let all of you know about. First of all, National Day of Prayer is this Thursday, so we are going to open up the church at 8 o'clock in the morning. It'll be open all day for you to come in and pray for things like our community, our churches, our education, our government, our military. We can pray for the world. There are just so many issues right now that we can pray over. So we're going to do that starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then from 6 to 7 o'clock that night, we are going to have a worship service to wrap up the day of prayer.
Yeah.
And that's your segue into...
Yeah, so I have a little sticky note that says we are actually not going to broadcast that service. And so if you want to be a part of that, once again, that's Thursday, and we're starting at, what, 6?
6.
6 o'clock? Okay.
Yep.
So Thursday, 6 o'clock, we'll be here, but it's not going to be live streamed. So if you want to be a part of it, you need to be right over here.
Yeah,
So,
that'll work.
yep.
So,
And so we'll have a little bit of a service, but it will also take place of our Friday night worship time, which is usually on a Friday, but this time on a Thursday. So, and then I want to just make sure that people are welcome to come in during the day to pray, but then come together so we can corporately kind of wrap the day up.
yeah.
So,
And then on Saturday, we got something exciting going on.
really,
Yep.
tell me more.
Have you ever seen me play with electricity?
No, I'm not sure I want to see that.
We are going to have a work day here on Saturday from 8 till noon, 2 o'clock. We'll see what I spark up. I've been known
Literally,
I've
yes.
been known to get into trouble with electricity. I am going to be doing a couple of
Looking
things.
around
but,
for our fire extinguishers.
there are some safer things for people to
Okay.
do, though. So if you would like to come and help us out on Saturday, by all means, come on out. Either that, if you want to come out and just have tickets to the electric show, then we can sell you tickets to the electric show and set up chairs for you to watch that too.
I'm a little concerned.
The other thing is May 13th and 14th.
Yes.
We have 24 hours of worship. This is going to be at Cloquet at Common Grounds Coffee Shop in Cloquet. Go up 35, hang a left, and then hang another left.
Okay.
Those are good directions. So, anyways, that's going to start on May the 13th at 5 o'clock at night, not in the morning. And we are going to go right through to 5 o'clock on Saturday. And in that time slot, from 11 till 1, our very own CWC Worship team is going to be on and performing.
On Saturday,
And leading
11 a.m.
11
to 1
a.m.
p.m.
to 1
Not
p.m. Not 11 p.m.
Friday.
to 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All
No.
right. Good.
I don't think Pastor Gene is up at that time. Well, he might be. It's fishing opener,
Yes.
so.
Okay.
But anyways,
All right. I also want to make a correction. I have to confess my faults, I guess.
Do tell.
On Sunday, I had said that the Shoot for Hope, which is at Wings North in Pine City in July, I said it was for harvest. It's not. It's actually for Treehouse, which also has plenty of fundraisers, and so just want to make sure that we're supporting Treehouse on that particular fundraiser. You can support Harvest too, but I just want to make sure. So there's me confessing my faults. I don't want to create rifts with relationships. And so, Blake, I'm sorry that I erroneously said that. So,
All right, well, there we go.
okay.
You're
I feel
you've
really-
you've let go of the backpack.
I know, I feel really free.
No more rocks. Cool. Alrighty. Well, everyone, that's, I think, a wrap for tonight. So thank you very much for allowing us to come in. As always, we hope to see you on Sunday live here at 10:30 in the morning. But if you can't make it here, by all means, join us online at 10:30 or catch the service sometime during the week afterwards at your leisure. So thanks, Jason, for coming in, and we will talk to you again next week.
Sounds good. Actually, I think Judy will be preaching this week for Mother's Day, so I get a couple weeks off. So
Yeah, all right.
yeah.
Cool.
All right. Either way, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we will see you later.